May 1453, Constantinople. The ground begins to shake, not because of an earthquake, but because something the world has never seen before is about to fire. A giant cannon, larger than any weapon ever built. Thousands of Ottoman soldiers stand silently behind it. Inside the city, church bells ring. Priests pray desperately. Mothers hold their children close, hoping the ancient walls that had protected Constantinople for more than 1,000 years will survive one more siege. Even the bravest Byzantine soldiers can feel the fear. Then a single command echoes across the battlefield. Fire! The explosion tears through the silence. The earth trembles. Smoke fills the sky. The mighty walls, believed to be impossible to destroy, begin to crack before everyone's eyes. That single shot changes history forever. But the giant cannon is only one piece of a much bigger story. The Ottoman Empire did not become one of the greatest empires in history because of a single weapon. It possessed an entire military system unlike anything the world had ever seen. Elite soldiers trained from childhood, deadly bows that could strike with unbelievable accuracy, swords feared across Europe, warships that ruled the seas, brilliant engineers, and battlefield tactics that left even experienced generals confused. For more than 6 centuries, these secret weapons allowed the Ottomans to conquer kingdoms, defeat powerful armies, and rule across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Their enemies kept asking the same question: what made the Ottoman Empire almost unstoppable? Today, we uncover the military secrets that changed the course of history forever. The giant cannon had done what no army had accomplished in 1,000 years. It shattered the walls of Constantinople and proved that the age of medieval fortresses was coming to an end. But Sultan Mehmed II understood a simple truth: cannons alone could never build an empire. Every weapon is only as powerful as the men who use it. That is why the Ottomans possessed another secret weapon, one far more dangerous than iron or gunpowder. They were called the Janissaries. They were not ordinary soldiers. They were trained from childhood, taught absolute discipline, and prepared for only one purpose: war. While most armies fought for money or local rulers, the Janissaries fought only for the Ottoman Sultan. They marched in perfect formation, followed orders without hesitation, and remained calm even when surrounded by thousands of enemies. On the battlefield, they became the heart of every Ottoman victory. As the Ottoman Empire expanded across Europe, Asia, and North Africa, the reputation of the Janissaries grew even faster. European kings feared facing them. Travelers described them as the most disciplined army in the world. Enemy commanders knew that defeating the Janissaries was almost impossible because they combined skill, patience, and unwavering loyalty. Whether storming the walls of a fortress or defending the Sultan himself, they fought with unmatched determination. But the Janissaries were only one part of the Ottoman military machine. Behind them stood another weapon that had terrified enemies for centuries. A weapon that could strike faster than early firearms and with deadly precision. If the Janissaries were the heart of the Ottoman army, then the Ottoman composite bow was one of its deadliest weapons. Long before muskets became common across Europe, Ottoman archers had already mastered a bow unlike any other. It was smaller than the longbows used by many European armies, yet far more powerful. Crafted from layers of wood, horn, and animal sinew, the composite bow stored enormous energy before releasing an arrow with incredible speed. An experienced Ottoman archer could fire several arrows in the time it took many enemy soldiers to reload a single firearm. Accuracy, speed, and deadly precision made this weapon feared across every battlefield. The bow became even more terrifying in the hands of Ottoman cavalry. Riding at full speed, horse archers could shoot in every direction without stopping. They attacked from the front, disappeared, then returned from the sides before the enemy had time to react. European knights, wearing heavy armor and moving slowly, found themselves overwhelmed by enemies they could barely. But the Ottomans never depended on old traditions alone. While many kingdoms refused to accept change, the Ottoman Empire embraced new technology faster than most of its rivals. They became one of the first great powers to combine bows, muskets, and giant artillery into a single fighting force. Their enemies weren't facing one powerful weapon. They were facing an army that knew exactly when to use each one. And among all those weapons, one stood out as a symbol of Ottoman warriors themselves, a sword whose name spread fear from the Balkans to the deserts of Arabia. If there was one weapon that became the symbol of Ottoman war in the hands of an experienced Janissary or Sipahi cavalryman, it became more than just a weapon. It became an extension of the warrior himself. But the Ottoman Empire didn't dominate battlefields with swords alone. It also ruled the seas. While European kingdoms competed for control of the Mediterranean, the Ottomans built one of the most powerful naval forces of the 16th century. Their warships carried thousands of elite soldiers across continents, allowing the empire to attack where enemies least expected. Ports fell one after another, trade routes came under Ottoman control, and rival kingdoms struggled to protect their own coastlines. The Mediterranean slowly became an Ottoman sea, and every fleet sailing through it knew they could encounter one of the empire's legendary admirals at any moment. Among those admirals, one name became a nightmare for Europe: Hayreddin Barbarossa. His brilliant naval tactics and fearless leadership transformed the Ottoman Navy into the strongest maritime force of its age. Under his command, Ottoman fleets defeated powerful European alliances and secured Ottoman dominance for decades. Once again, the empire proved that its greatest strength wasn't a single weapon. It was the ability to combine powerful technology with extraordinary commanders. Yet, even this wasn't the Ottomans' greatest advantage. Behind every victory stood something far more important: an army that could move faster, fight longer, and outsmart almost every opponent it faced. But perhaps the Ottoman Empire's greatest advantage wasn't a weapon at all. It was its military engineers. Before a single battle began, they had already mapped rivers, measured mountains, planned supply routes, and designed siege equipment. While many medieval armies struggled to move heavy cannons across rough terrain, the Ottomans found a way. Thousands of engineers, blacksmiths, carpenters, and laborers traveled with the army, building bridges where none existed, repairing roads, digging trenches, and constructing massive siege towers in a matter of days. Every campaign was carefully planned months in advance. To the enemy, it looked like magic. In reality, it was preparation. The empire also built one of the most advanced military logistics systems of its time. Long before an army reached the battlefield, food, horses, arrows, gunpowder, and spare weapons were already waiting at carefully selected supply stations. This allowed Ottoman forces to remain in the field for months, while many European armies were forced to retreat because they simply ran out of food. Hunger defeated more armies than swords ever did, but the Ottomans understood that an army marches on its stomach. Their soldiers remained supplied, rested, and ready while their enemies grew weaker with every passing day. This combination of engineering, planning, and logistics allowed the Ottoman Empire to fight on multiple fronts at the same time. They weren't just winning battles, they were controlling entire campaigns. Every bridge they built, every road they repaired, and every supply convoy they protected became another invisible weapon that pushed the empire closer to victory. But there was still one final secret, perhaps the most powerful of them all. A weapon that couldn't be touched, couldn't be seen, yet often defeated the enemy before the battle had even begun. But perhaps the Ottoman Empire's greatest secret weapon wasn't made of steel or gunpowder. It was fear. Long before the first cannon fired, long before the first sword was drawn, many enemies had already accepted defeat in their minds. Whenever an Ottoman army approached, The thunder of giant war drums echoed across the battlefield. Thousands of disciplined soldiers marched in perfect formation. Bright red banners waved beneath the sky, while military bands filled the air with sounds unlike anything Europe had ever heard. To frighten defenders watching from city walls, it felt as though an unstoppable force was marching toward them. The battle had not even begun, yet fear had already entered their hearts. The Ottomans understood that winning a war was not only about destroying an enemy's army, it was about destroying its confidence. One of their favorite battlefield tactics was the feigned retreat. Ottoman cavalry would suddenly turn and flee, convincing the enemy that victory was within reach. Excited and overconfident, opposing armies abandoned their formations and charged forward. That was exactly what the Ottomans wanted. Hidden cavalry units struck from both sides, while Janissaries advanced from the front. Within minutes, the hunters became the hunted. Entire armies found themselves surrounded before they even realized they had fallen into a carefully planned trap. Time after time, this strategy delivered victory against enemies who were larger, richer, and sometimes even better equipped. These weren't simply battles. They were carefully designed psychological operations. The Ottoman commanders knew that confusion could be more powerful than any sword, and panic could spread faster than any cannonball. Their greatest victories came because they combined powerful weapons with brilliant strategy. But every military advantage has its time. As Europe entered a new age of industry, science, and modern warfare, the very weapons that had once made the Ottoman Empire unstoppable slowly began to lose their edge. For centuries, these secret weapons gave the Ottoman Empire an advantage that few nations could match. Their cannons changed siege warfare forever. Their Janissaries became the model for professional standing armies. Their cavalry moved with unmatched speed, and their engineers solved problems that stopped other armies in their tracks. It seemed as if the Ottoman military had discovered the perfect formula for victory. But history has a cruel habit. Every weapon that changes the world eventually becomes ordinary. By the 18th century, Europe had entered a new era. Factories began producing stronger cannons, faster muskets, and more accurate artillery. Military academies replaced traditional training, and new battlefield tactics appeared almost every decade. Nations like Britain, France, Austria, and Russia were constantly improving their armies. The Ottomans still possessed brave soldiers and proud commanders, but the gap was growing larger every year. The weapons that had once terrified Europe were no longer unique. Their enemies had learned from them, copied them, and in many cases, improved them. The Ottoman Empire tried to modernize, but change came slowly. Powerful groups resisted reform, old traditions refused to disappear, and valuable time was lost. The empire that had once led the world in military innovation was now struggling to catch up. For the first time in centuries, Ottoman commanders found themselves facing enemies with better technology, stronger industries, and larger economies. The empire's greatest secret weapons had not suddenly become weak. The rest of the world had finally become just as strong. And that was the beginning of a new chapter. One in which even the greatest empire could no longer rely on the weapons that had once made it unstoppable. One by one, the empire's greatest advantages disappeared. The giant bombards that had shattered the walls of Constantinople became obsolete against modern artillery. The legendary composite bow, once unmatched in speed and accuracy, could no longer compete with advanced rifles. Even the famous Kilij sword became less important as firearms dominated the battlefield. The Ottoman Navy, once feared across the Mediterranean, faced powerful steam-powered fleets built by Britain and France. The empire's secret weapons had not become weaker. The world had simply moved beyond them. Yet despite all these setbacks, one thing remained unchanged. History often remembers the Ottoman Empire for its powerful cannons, its fearless Janissaries, and its legendary sultans. But those were only the weapons people could see. The empire's greatest strength was something far more valuable: its ability to stay ahead of its enemies. Whenever the world changed, the Ottomans changed with it. They embraced gunpowder before many European kingdoms. They built professional standing armies while others still depended on feudal knights. They invested in engineers, logistics, intelligence, and military discipline centuries before these ideas became common across Europe. That spirit of innovation, not a single sword or cannon, was the true secret weapon behind 600 years of Ottoman power. But every empire faces the same test. Success can become dangerous. Victories create confidence. Confidence becomes pride, and pride slowly turns into complacency. While Europe continued to experiment with new technology, new industries, and new military strategies, the Ottoman Empire gradually lost the urgency that had once made it unstoppable. The empire that had taught the world how to fight modern wars now found itself learning from its former enemies. The balance of power had shifted. For the first time in centuries, the Ottomans were no longer leading history. They were trying to catch it. In the end, the Ottoman Empire's greatest secret weapon was never a giant cannon, a legendary sword, or an elite army. It was the ability to stay one step ahead of the rest of the world. For centuries, the Ottomans mastered the art of combining technology, discipline, strategy, and leadership into a military machine unlike anything history had ever seen. Their bombards brought down the walls of Constantinople. Their Janissaries became the most feared soldiers of their age. Their navy ruled the Mediterranean, and their engineers turned impossible campaigns into historic victories. Together, these weapons built an empire that stretched across 3 continents and shaped the destiny of millions. But history never stands still. Every great innovation eventually becomes ordinary. Every unbeatable weapon is eventually matched and then surpassed. The Ottoman Empire did not begin to decline because it lacked brave soldiers. It declined because the world kept changing, and change never waits for anyone. The very empire that had once revolutionized warfare slowly lost the advantage it had worked so hard to create. By the time new reforms arrived, powerful rivals had already moved ahead, while the future belonged to those willing to innovate once again. Yet more than a century after the empire disappeared, its military legacy still lives on. Historians continue to study the siege of Constantinople, the Janissaries, Ottoman artillery, naval warfare, logistics, and battlefield tactics. Their weapons changed the course of history, influenced armies across the world, and proved one timeless lesson. The strongest weapon is never the one made of steel. It is the one built through innovation. Because empires are not remembered only for the lands they conquered. They are remembered for the ideas that changed the world. And few empires changed the history of warfare more than the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire's greatest weapon was never its cannons or its swords. It was its ability to innovate before the rest of the world. And the moment that innovation stopped, the world's most unstoppable empire slowly became history.